Think Like a Freak. This book is too amazing, I must say, and it's interesting that you can give it to someone who is not a reader and they still enjoy reading it. I learned so much from this book. Love it. Family firms in Japan have a long-standing solution to this problem. They find a new CEO from outside the family and legally adopt him. It answers for the question, is it a good idea to pass along a family business to the next generation? Sure, if your goal is to kill off the business, for the data show it is generally better to bring in an outside manager. An obvious violation of common sense, but then so did the idea of preventing a disease by injecting people with the very microbes that cause it. Vaccines. Sometimes in life, going straight up the middle is the boldest move of all. Most people, whether because of nature or nurture, generally put their interests ahead of others. It doesn't make them bad people, it just makes them human. How are you supposed to get everyone to pull in the same direction when they are all pulling primarily for themselves? In recent years, the idea has arisen that there is a right way to think about solving a given problem, and of course, a wrong way too. This inevitably leads to a lot of shouting and sadly a lot of unsolved problems. So it's gonna be long. The modern world demands that we all think a bit more productively, more creatively, more rationally, that we think from a different angle, with a different set of muscles, with a different set of expectation, that we think with neither fear nor favor, with neither blind optimism nor sour skepticism, and that we think like a freak. Even the smartest people tend to seek out evidence that confirms what they already think, rather than new information that would give them a more robust view of reality. When people don't pay the true cost of something, they tend to consume it inefficiently. People consume more of it than if they were charged the sticker price. This sort of overconsumption can be more easily tolerated when healthcare is only a small part of the economy. But with healthcare costs approaching 10% of GDP in the UK and nearly double that in the United States, you have to seriously rethink how it is provided and paid for. The first step is not to be embarrassed by how much you don't yet know. Until you can admit what you don't yet know, it's virtually impossible to learn what you need to. Believe things we hold to be true, but which may not be easily verified. On such topics, there is more room for disagreement. Smart people love to make smart-sounding predictions, no matter how wrong they may turn out to be. Just because you're right at something doesn't mean you're good at everything. In most cases, the cost of saying I don't know is higher than the cost of being wrong. It costs almost nothing to pretend you know what will happen in the future. When bad predictions are unpunished, what incentive is there to stop making them right? When you're consumed with the rightness or wrongness of a given issue, it's easy to lose track of what the issue actually is. Because talking about suicide carries such a strong moral taboo, these facts are little known. So there are about 38,000 suicides a year in the US, more than twice the number of homicides. Suicide is more common among people with a higher quality of life. So higher quality of life doesn't mean more happiness. The key to learning is feedback. Even with good feedback, it can take a while to learn, but without it, you don't stand a chance. You will go on making the same mistakes forever. To this day, on every single Sunday, in every single market, these companies still buy newspaper advertising, even though the only real piece of feedback they ever got is that the ads don't work. It's a waste of money. Neutrinos and monads don't change their behavior when they are being watched, but humans do. The entire awards program was really just an advertising scheme. A lot of obvious ideas are only obvious after the fact, after someone has taken the time and effort to investigate them. When you ask the question differently, you look for answers in different places. Whatever problem you're trying to solve, make sure you're not just attacking the noisy part of the problem that happens to capture your attention. While everyone else was simply treating the symptoms of an ulcer, Barry Marshall and Robin Warren had uncovered its root cause. If you're willing to confront the obvious, you will end up asking a lot of questions that others don't. There is no correlation between appearing to be serious and actually being good at what you do. The best predictor of success among young economists and journalists is whether they absolutely love what they do. Rather than dismiss the fun in point, why not co-opt it for the greater good? Have fun, think small, don't fear the obvious. Understanding the incentives of all the players in a given scenario is a fundamental step in solving any problem. Think less about the ideal behavior of imaginary people and more about actual behavior of real people. Public service messages are designed to move people in societally desirable directions by telling them how many people are behaving in undesirable direction. The subtext message is that a lot of people just like you are doing this. It legitimizes the undesirable behavior. The best way to increase wolves in America, rabbits in Australia, and snakes in India is to pay a bounty on their scalps. Then every patriot goes to raising them. No individual or government will ever be as smart as all the people out there scheming to beat an incentive plan. The best way to get what you want is to treat other people with decency and pay attention to how people respond. If their response surprises or frustrates you, learn from it and try something different. A person who is lying or cheating will often respond to an incentive differently than an honest person. The scammer can't invite the gullible people to reveal themselves. The scammer wants to find the guy who hasn't heard of it. We can blind to the obvious, and we are also blind to our blindness. If you make an argument that promises all benefits and no cost, your opponent will never buy it. Think about all the time, brain power, and social or political capital you continue to spend on some commitment only because you didn't like the idea of quitting. The third force that keeps people from quitting is a tendency to focus on concrete costs and pay too little attention to opportunity costs. Concrete costs are usually easy to calculate, but opportunity costs are harder. In medicine or in science, if you go down a path and it turns out to be a dead end, you really made a contribution because we know we don't have to go down that path again. The key is failing fast and failing cheap. Spend $10,000 on our failures instead of $10 million. We get the opportunity to do a lot more things. Some changes did leave people happier. Two of the most substantial quits: breaking up with a boyfriend or girlfriend and quitting a job. We are all slaves to our own biases. And that's pretty much it. It's not a thick book. You can finish it in a couple of hours, but it brings out a lot of knowledges and lessons. And yeah, I just really enjoy reading the book. Well, that's for today. I'll see you next time.